Derek was everything a woman could desire. Handsome, muscular, and exuding a raw magnetic charm. He was well aware of his appeal and had a keen eye for spotting wealthy married women who sought excitement and adoration. What if Jonathan was out of the picture permanently? Then we could have everything. All his wealth could be ours, and we could live the life we have always dreamed of. The suggestion hung heavy in the air, and Clara's heart raced. The idea was shocking, yet Derek's hold on her was so strong that it didn't immediately repel her. Meet Clara, a woman whose life is about to be changed forever after her encounter with Derek, her sugar baby. Before we dive in, please subscribe to our channel, share to your friends and loved ones, and please turn on that notification bell so you won't miss out on any of our amazing stories. Now, let's dive in. In a prosperous city, there lived a beautiful woman named Clara. Clara had grown up in a humble village where every day was a struggle to make ends meet. Her family was poor, and she often dreamed of a life filled with luxury and ease. Clara, standing in the small, dimly lit kitchen of her childhood home, felt a surge of anger and frustration. The worn-out furniture and the constant struggle for basic needs had always weighed heavily on her. Today, she could no longer hold back her resentment. Her father, a humble and hard-working man named Henry, sat at the rickety table, looking weary after another long day of labor. "Father," Clara began, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and sadness. "Why are we so poor? Why must we live like this? Always scraping by, always wanting more. I hate it here." Henry looked up at his daughter, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. He had always known she struggled with their circumstances, but hearing her words cut him deeply. "Clara, my dear, I have done the best I can with what we have. Life hasn't been easy, but I've worked hard to provide for us." Clara's eyes flashed with anger. "Your best isn't enough. I am tired of this life. I hate living in this house, wearing these old clothes, and having nothing nice. I refuse to spend my life in poverty like you. I will never marry a poor man like you. I deserve better and I will have better." Henry sighed, his shoulders slumping under the weight of her harsh words. "Clara, I understand your frustration, but wealth isn't everything. It's important to be grateful for what you have and to work hard for a better future. Don't let bitterness cloud your heart." Clara was determined. "No, Father, you don't understand. I can't live like this any longer. I want a life of luxury and ease, and I will find a way to get it no matter what it takes." Henry watched as his daughter stormed out of the kitchen, her resolve unshaken. He felt a deep pang of sorrow. One fateful day, luck shone upon her when she met Jonathan, a successful international businessman who was smitten by her beauty and charm. Jonathan was the epitome of a dream partner, tall and handsome with a warm smile that could light up any room. He was not only a successful businessman, but also a man of exceptional character. He had a heart as generous as his bank account, always ready to lend a helping hand to those in need. His wealth did not define him. His kindness and compassion did. Jonathan knew from the beginning that Clara had a materialistic streak. Her love for luxury and fine things was evident, but it didn't deter him. In fact, he saw it as part of her charm. Jonathan believed that with his wealth, he could always meet her needs and keep her happy. After all, he had the means to provide her with the lifestyle she desired. Clara's beauty had captured Jonathan's heart and to some extent his sense of reasoning. After a whirlwind romance, they got married and Clara's life transformed overnight. Her life was one of opulence and luxury. She had everything she could ever desire. Their mansion was a testament to their wealth, filled with extravagant furniture and surrounded by lush gardens. Clara was surrounded by numerous housemates who catered for her every whim. She didn't lift a finger around the house, not even for her personal needs. She treated her maids with disdain, seeing them as mere tools to serve her whims, rather than individuals deserving of respect and kindness. Her privileged lifestyle had hardened her heart, making her indifferent to the feelings and well-being of those who worked tirelessly to make her life comfortable. One of the maids, Favor, stood out among the others. She was dedicated, hardworking, and took her responsibilities seriously. Favor was one who baited Clara, dressed her, and attended to her personal needs. Despite her diligence and loyalty, Clara's treatment of Favor was nothing short of cruel. Each morning, Favor would gently wake Clara and prepare her bath, ensuring the water was just the right temperature and the finest soaps and oils were laid out. Clara would lay back in the tub, enjoying the luxury, but her words to Favor were often biting and harsh. "Can't you do anything right, Favor?" Clara would snap if the water was even slightly off. "You come from such a poor background. It's no wonder you can't manage the simplest task." Favor would apologize softly and corrected whatever mistake Clara had pointed out. She endured the belittlement with grace, knowing that her position, though difficult, was a means to support her own family. But Clara showed no appreciation for Favor's hard work. Instead, she constantly reminded Favor of her lonely status. Jonathan adored Clara, and to even make her more happier, he opened a grand jewelry store for her. The store was magnificent, stocked with the finest gems and precious metals. Despite this opportunity, Clara was so accustomed to a life of pampering that she rarely took her responsibilities seriously. Instead of actively overseeing the business, Clara merely used the store as another revenue to flaunt her wealth. She rarely visited during working hours. When she did make an appearance, it was only at the end of the day to collect the sales revenue. Clara had no interest in understanding the store's operations, inventories, or finances. She didn't care whether the business was thriving or struggling, as long as she had money in hand. The store sales personnel, aware of Clara's disinterest and lack of oversight, took advantage of the situation. These big boys and girls, as they were known, were smart at manipulating the day's figures to their benefit. They pocketed a significant portion of the sales and handed Clara only a fraction of what the store actually earned. Clara, along with her group of equally indulgent friends, spent their days at the most exclusive gym in the city. It was not just a place to work out, but a social hub where the rich and beautiful gathered. It was at this upscale gym that Clara met Derek. Derek was everything a woman could desire: handsome, muscular, and exuding a raw magnetic charm. He was well aware of his appeal and had a keen eye for spotting wealthy married women who sought excitement and adoration. He and his friends had made a lifestyle out of charming these women, becoming their sugar babies in exchange for the lavish lifestyles they provided. Idle mind, they said, is indeed the devil's workshop. From the moment Clara laid eyes on Derek, she was captivated by his chiseled physique, and confident demeanor made her heart race. Derek, recognizing the familiar signs of interest in her eyes, made his move. "Hello, beautiful. I couldn't help but notice you from across the room. I'm Derek," he said, extending his hands. Clara, flattered and intrigued, responded with a flirtatious smile. "I'm Clara. Nice to meet you, Derek." Clara's life is about to take an unbelievable twist. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and also share to your loved ones for more amazing and beautiful stories like this. Their initial conversation was light and filled with playful banter, but it didn't take long for Derek to weave his spell. He was attentive, always complimenting Clara and making her feel like the most important person in the room. He showered her with affection and made her feel desired in ways she hadn't felt before. Clara, intoxicated by Derrick's attention and physical allure, began to spend more and more time with him. He was a master of romance and seduction, providing Clara with all the physical and emotional thrill she craved. Derrick's true intentions, however, were far from genuine love. He and his friends had a well-rehearsed strategy: identify wealthy, vulnerable women, make them fall deeply in love, and then exploit their affection for financial gain. Derrick's flattery and sexual prose were tools to achieve this end. Clara, blinded by her infatuation, began to lavish gifts and money on Derrick, just as many women before her had done. She bought him designers' clothes, expensive watches, and even transferred large sums of money to him. Derrick's hold on her was strong, and she was willing to do anything to keep him happy and close. Her friends, the baddies, cheered her on, caught up in their own similar entanglements. Meanwhile, Jonathan continued to stock Clara's jewelry store, pouring in more resources and high-end merchandise, even though she had no profit to show for it. Clara, caught in her double life with Derrick, barely paid attention to Jonathan's efforts. She no longer cared about the success of the store or the efforts Jonathan was putting into it. Her focus was entirely on Derrick and the intoxicating word he promised. Derrick was indeed a weapon fashioned against Clara that was bound to prosper. Once he saw how completely he had ensnared her in his web, he realized just how gullible and senseless she had become under his influence. Clara was so blinded by her infatuation with Derrick that she couldn't see the danger she was heading towards. She would oftentimes carry Derrick to her matrimonial home anytime Jonathan was on a business trip. The housemates dare not say pim. Seeing the extent of Clara's dependency on him, Derrick began to hatch a sinister plan. He knew that as long as Jonathan was in the picture, his access to Clara's wealth would be limited. If Jonathan were eliminated, Derrick could have Clara and her fortune all to himself. He started to softly plant the idea in Clara's mind, exploiting her vulnerability and deepening his control over her. One evening, as they lay together in an expensive hotel suite, Derrick broached the subject with calculated precision. He spoke in a soft, persuasive tone, knowing that Clara's emotions were already raw and malleable. "Clara," he began, stroking her head gently, "I hate seeing you unhappy. You deserve so much more than what you have now. I want us to be together, truly together, without anything holding us back." Clara sighed, her mind clouded by her obsession with Derrick. "I want that too, Derrick, but what can we do? What if there was a way for us to be free, completely free, without anyone standing in our way?" Clara looked at him, confused but intrigued. "What do you mean?" Derrick leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if Jonathan was out of the picture permanently? Then we could have everything. All his wealth could be ours, and we could live the life we have always dreamed of." The suggestion hung heavy in the air, and Clara's heart raced. The idea was shocking, yet Derrick's hold on her was so strong that it didn't immediately repel her. Instead, it began to fester in her mind, a dark seed planted by a master manipulator. "Derrick, I don't know if I could ever..." Clara's voice trembled, but Derrick quickly reassured her. "Clara, my love, think about it. Jonathan doesn't understand you like I do. You deserve to be with someone who truly loves you and wants you to be happy. We could be together forever with nothing stopping us." Clara's mind swelled with conflicting thoughts. The alloy of a life with Derrick, free from any constraints, was tempting. She had already strayed so far from her marriage, and Derrick's influence over her was almost complete. Days turned into weeks, and Derrick continued to manipulate Clara, reinforcing the idea that eliminating Jonathan was the only way for them to be truly happy. One fateful night, as Clara lay in bed beside Jonathan, the weight of Derrick's suggestion bore down on her. She looked at her husband, a man who had given her everything, and felt a pang of guilt. Yet, Derrick's words echoed in her mind. Clara made a decision that would seal her faith. She agreed to Derrick's plan. Derrick handed Clara a small deadly portion, instructing her to add it to Jonathan's food. Clara, now completely under Derrick's spell and desperate to be free from her husband, agreed to carry out the heinous act. On the day chosen for the sinister deed, Clara, with a mix of nerves and determination, took the portion with her to the kitchen. Favor, the dedicated maid, who had always served Jonathan's meal, noticed something unusual. Clara, who had never shown any interest in serving Jonathan, suddenly insisted on doing it herself. Favor's instinct told her that something was wrong. Clara's behavior was out of character, and the insistence felt forced. Favor stepped back, but didn't leave the kitchen entirely. Instead, she discreetly positioned herself near the door, peering through the small cracks to observe Clara's actions. Her heart pounded as she watched Clara pull out the portion and pour its contents into Jonathan's food. Her suspicions were confirmed. Clara was indeed attempting to poison Jonathan. As Clara finished her task and went to call Jonathan for dinner, Favor sprang into action. She swiftly and silently swapped the poisoned dish with a fresh one, ensuring that Jonathan's meal was safe. Her hands trembled, but she moved with a determination born of loyalty and love for the man who had always treated her with kindness. Clara returned with Jonathan. "Dinner is ready, darling," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Jonathan smiled at her, his trust and affection unwavering. "Thank you, babe. It looks delicious." As Jonathan sat down to eat, Clara watched intently, waiting for the portion to take effect. Clara's eyes widened, anticipation turning to confusion as nothing happened. He continued eating, chatting about his day, completely unaware of the deadly plot he had narrowly escaped. Clara's frustration grew, but she couldn't understand why the poison hadn't worked. She had followed Derrick's instruction precisely. Favor, meanwhile, maintained her composure, relieved that Jonathan was safe, but aware that the danger was far from over. After dinner, Clara called Derrick, confused and agitated. "I did exactly what you told me, Derrick, but nothing happened. He ate the food and is perfectly fine." Derrick frowned, his mind racing. "That's impossible. Are you sure you used the portion correctly?" "Yes, I'm certain." "But it didn't work," Clara insisted, desperation creeping into her voice. Favor, having overheard their conversation on the phone, knew she had to act quickly to protect Jonathan. She realized that Derrick and Clara would likely try again, and she couldn't let that happen. Later that night, as Jonathan was preparing for bed, Favor approached him, her expression serious. "Sir, there is something you need to know. Your life is in danger." Jonathan looked at her, confused. "What do you mean, Favor?" She took a deep breath and recounted the events of the evening, explaining how Clara had tried to poison him and how she had switched the plates to save his life. Jonathan's face went pale as he listened, disbelief and sorrow clouding his eyes. "I can't believe it," he whispered. "Clara, my own wife?" Jonathan checked out the CCTV camera and was bewildered by what he saw. Days later, Jonathan decided to take action. He handed Clara a set of divorce papers, his face a mask of calm determination. "Clara, I know about your attempts to kill me. You are free to live your life without me as an obstacle. I am willing to part ways with my life intact." Clara, all remorseful and driven by her insatiable greed, barely flinched. Instead, she insisted on getting half of Jonathan's properties, her voice cold and calculating. Jonathan, though deeply hurt, agreed to her demands. "Fine," he said. "You can have half. You can have everything. I just want my peace and my life back." The divorce proceedings were swift. Jonathan, true to his word, allowed Clara to take half of his assets. She walked away with a substantial fortune, including the jewelry stores and several other valuable properties. With the legal battle behind him, Jonathan made a bold decision. He took Favor, the loyal maid who had saved his life, and moved to the United States. There, away from the shadows of his past, they started a new chapter together. The bond they had formed during those perilous times had deepened into genuine affection and love. In the United States, Jonathan and Favor married, beginning a new life together. With Jonathan's business acumen and Favor's unwavering support, they rebuilt his shattered life. Their new venture flourished, and they found happiness and peace in each other's company, far removed from the deceit and danger that Clara had brought into their lives. The first few months after the divorce were thrilling for Clara and Derek. They reveled in their newfound wealth and the freedom to be openly together. Clara enjoyed the luxuries that Jonathan's assets provided, believing that her life had finally reached the pinnacle of excitement and opulence. They traveled to exotic locations, attended high-end parties, and spent extravagantly on anything that caught Clara's fancy. Derek, always the charmer, showered her with attention and affection, making her feel on top of the world. But this period of bliss was short-lived. As time passed, Clara began to notice Derek's attention waning. He was often seen with other women, flirting openly and spending less time with her. Whenever Clara confronted him about his behavior, she was met with hostility. Derek's once gentle demeanor turned violent, and Clara would receive the hottest of slaps for questioning him. Derek's true intentions soon became clear. With access to all of Clara's wealth, he began selling off the properties she had received from Jonathan, including the house they lived in. Clara, blinded by her love for Derek and her desperation to keep him, didn't realize the extent of his deceit until it was too late. One day, Clara returned home to find it empty. Derek had vanished, taking with him the proceeds from the sales of her properties. Everything she owned was gone, and she was left with nothing but the clothes on her back. Bewildered and heartbroken, Clara finally understood the magnitude of her folly. Clara tried to reach Derek, but he had disappeared without a trace. She was abandoned and penniless. The realization that she had been duped by the very man she had sacrificed everything for was crushing. When Clara returned to her village, she had nowhere else to turn to but to her father, whom she had excommunicated, treated with disdain and abandoned without a second thought after marrying Jonathan. In the village, Clara faced the full consequences of her actions. She lived a life of hardship and regret, constantly haunted by the choices she had made. The once beautiful and wealthy Clara was now a shadow of her former self. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. Like and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on any of our amazing stories. Bye.